Israel has vowed to intensify their strikes in southern Lebanon while pretending like they're fighting Hezbollah, when in reality they're trying to annex land. They're destroying civilian infrastructure and killing civilians, of course, Israel's specialty. I mean, do they excel at anything other than that? And this was, of course, their response to Trump pretending like he was going to sign a peace deal with Iran. That never came to fruition because it was never real. But Cenk, I want to get your 2 cents before I go in on this story.
Yeah, so I think that some of the places that they've bombed are particularly heinous. I think the fact that they declare that they're never going to stop attacking Lebanon is deeply problematic. And after Anna gives you the receipts on all the things I just promised you, I want to explain why that is such a huge ramification for America and the broader war at hand.
So Netanyahu pretends like he's going after the boogeymen, right? In this case, the resistance, Hezbollah, which is really the only entity within Lebanon attempting to protect its borders. The Lebanese government is doing nothing. They're engaging in ceasefire talks with Israel. It's going nowhere because the Lebanese government is incredibly weak and doesn't care as much about protecting their own people. It's just the facts of the situation on the ground. Now, Hezbollah said on Tuesday it had targeted Israeli forces advancing toward the southern Lebanese town of Zatar al-Sharikia with explosive drones, rockets, and artillery, while the Israeli military struck several towns in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley and issued new evacuation warnings. I want to be very clear that it's not just southern Lebanon that Israel is targeting, and I'm going to show you the receipts to that in just a moment. But this morning, the IDF said that they struck more than 100 Hezbollah infrastructure sites and terrorists. I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a minute. While Netanyahu claimed that the IDF eliminated over 600 terrorists in the last few weeks. By the way, let me just note, they have signed a ceasefire deal with Hezbollah. Usually what happens in a ceasefire is you cease fire, including ceasing fire against your enemies, in this case, Hezbollah. But anyway, so let's just talk really quickly about what Israel thinks counts as Hezbollah infrastructure, okay? Let's take a look at this video. Keep my mic up, I'll explain what you're looking at. So Middle East Observer and some Western journalists, in fact, confirmed that Israel bombed the Warun Dam in Bekaa, which contains a large amount of drinking water. And if that dam fails, you wanna know what happens? Villages get flooded, people die, civilians die. Also destroying the water infrastructure means denying people access to clean drinking water, which Israel also excels at, as we've learned in Gaza. So is that Hezbollah? Is that what we were looking at right there? Was that dam Hezbollah? Is that dam terrorizing the precious Israelis?
Self-defense, Anna.
These people are scum. Scum.
If you don't destroy the drinking water and endanger the civilians of Lebanon, how could you possibly defend yourself? As Golda Meir legendarily said, we'll never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their children.
They never take responsibility for who they are and what they are.
Because they have an entitlement complex that they're allowed to murder all their neighbors. Yep. They have a victimhood complex that says, we're all gonna die unless we murder them first.
I have never seen a group of people weaponize a historic tragedy like the Israelis do. They have cheapened the Holocaust with their weaponization of it in order to do to Arabs what the Nazis did to the Jews, okay? They're disgusting people. But let me continue. Israel shows no signs of slowing down. Let's go to the next video. Here's another example.
A massacre destroyed a house in my village, Dwyer, right now. The house had 2 women in it, only. 2 women, 2 old women. Their brother is our friend, and he's a civil defense worker. And he lost both of his sisters in the attack. I cannot say anything. Actually, it's a very tough moment, a very, very painful moment to go with your friend and to arrive to find his house destroyed with his 2 old sisters in it, martyred. This is America.
You Americans proud of that? You proud of that? You proud of killing the 2 elderly women in that house? Was that Hezbollah, Israel? Was that Hezbollah? You feel safer? They're such liars. They're such liars. Oh, we feel so unsafe.
Yeah.
You feel unsafe? How many of your residential buildings with elderly people are being bombed right now? They're such precious victims, such precious. But one more example, Cenk, because I want to read what Smotrich said about people in Lebanon. So he said that for every drone strike that Hezbollah carries out against IDF soldiers who are occupying their land, by the way, and attempting to steal their land, every drone strike will result in 10 residential buildings being bombed by the Israelis. Smotrich said that. So explain to me how that's targeting Hezbollah. They are intentionally targeting civilians. They did it in Gaza, they're doing it in Lebanon, they did it in Iran. They're gonna keep doing it over and over again as long as our corporate media continues providing cover for it and lying to the American people about the reality. But the American people should be smarter than that, and they should know the truth. And the truth is, they are not targeting Hezbollah, they are targeting civilians intentionally. They are destroying entire villages.
So apparently Trump is calling for unity after another violent incident. And of course, depending on where you get your news, that story gets framed in completely different ways. On the right, the angle is that Trump is a uniquely powerful figure who keeps getting targeted because he's so effective. On the left, the focus is on something much more uncomfortable for them to deal with: Trump's long relationship with violent rhetoric and the political climate that he's helped to create. Now, you just saw how easy it is to look at one story and immediately compare 2 completely different narratives. And that is exactly why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. Because once you start looking at coverage that way, it becomes a lot easier to see when the media isn't informing you, it's managing your perception. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering at all, so you're not trapped inside the version of events your media bubble wants you to accept. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code and get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan. It's a great deal.
They're demolishing entire villages. Take a look at the before and after images of Gaza, which has been completely leveled. So you're telling me that Hamas was using every single building in Gaza as a human shield? Every single one? Think for yourselves, please, for the love of God, please think for yourselves. We have blood on our hands as we sit idly by and help our government fund the atrocities that Israel is carrying out right now. Don't be duped by modern day Nazis. They are not going after terrorists, they are trying to expand their borders. That's what this is. That's what this is.
They are the terrorists. So let's show you the Smotrich clip and then I want to comment on it.
אני אמרתי בצורה חד משמעית לכל השבועות האחרונים, ואמרתי את זה גם אתמול בקולי. במקביל להשקעה תקציבית גדולה מאוד בפתרונות טכנולוגיים ואחרים להגנה מפני איום הרחפנים, רחפני הנפץ האלה עם הסיב, הדרך הטובה והמהירה והיעילה ביותר להפסיק אותם, זה פשוט להודיע שעל כל רחפן יורדים 10 בניינים בביירות. ואם היו 7, אז 70. ואם 15, אז 150. ואם יגמרו הבניינים בביירות, אז נעבור לצור ולצידון ולבקע, ונגבה מחירים כאלה בלתי אפשריים מבחינת האויב, כדי להפסיק לחלוטין את הירי הן לעבר חיילינו ולוחמינו הגיבורים, והן לעבר יישובינו.
Okay, so for our audio podcast listeners, he said for every Israeli soldier they attack in Lebanon, we are going to destroy 10 buildings in Beirut. So if they attack 7 soldiers, we'll destroy 70 buildings. And then he listed a number of Lebanese cities in which they would do bombings. So let's break that down a little bit. Number one, so wait a minute, those are attacks against IDF soldiers in Lebanon. So what he's saying is the Lebanese are not allowed to defend themselves. We can walk into their country, we could tape ourselves stealing things from their homes and publish it worldwide, which they have. Then we could destroy their homes. Then we could say this is now our land and it's now part of Israel. And if you dare fight back, we'll call you a terrorist. And then like actual terrorists, we will bomb 10 buildings in Beirut that have nothing to do with Hezbollah. So we will murder your civilians unless you give us complete and unconditional surrender. Only Israel has a right to defend itself, and in its self-defense, it can take other people's land and murder their families. But we are not to be called terrorists. You defending your actual land, your actual home. If you defend your actual home, we will get this disgusting liars in American media who we utterly own to call them terrorists for defending their home. We'll say, oh, they're dirty Muslims. And oh yeah, by the way, they're also Christians in Lebanon. Dirty Christians, anti-Semites defending their own homes. Don't they know that if they weren't anti-Semites, they would let us slaughter their families and thank us for it? And they would hand over their territory? Well, I guess we're gonna have to kill 10 times more the civilians as soldiers they are attacking that are on their land and inside their homes.
Yeah.
So there is no question who the terrorists are. One of the top 3 government officials in Israel just told you they are the terrorists.
Yeah.
The Israelis are indisputably the terrorists. And you just saw it with your own eyes. And every liar in mainstream media in America will tell you, no, the Arabs are the terrorists. The Muslims and the Christians are the terrorists. The Israelis are God's chosen people, beloved Israel, and they're the victims. And by the way, you owe them money. Give all of your money to them so these terrorists can murder innocent people in Lebanon. And if they're Christians and you're a Christian, shut up, anti-Semite.
So the Israelis are now occupying over 60% of the Gaza Strip because that was the plan all along. Taking the land was the plan all along, which is why the Israeli government was warned ahead of time, a year in advance, that Hamas was planning to take hostages. And they surprisingly decided to ignore that intelligence. Gee, I wonder why. It took hours for IDF soldiers to respond. Some IDF soldiers claimed that they were given stand down orders, but that can't be investigated, God forbid. It's on camera, it's on camera. The whole plan was to take the land. They're working on it right now as we speak. They went from taking 54% of the Gaza Strip to now upward of 64% of the Gaza Strip. Okay, fantastic.
And quoting IDF soldiers is anti-Semitic.
Great. Then I guess I'm the biggest one in the world because I like to quote what they're actually saying. When people tell you who they are, I choose to believe them. So they're doing the same thing in Lebanon now. Remember when they pretended like, we feel so unsafe, so we need to take Lebanese land to build a safety buffer zone, right? Okay, let's take a look at graphic 2. Journalist Ahmed Shahab Eldin says, Israel's Channel 12 reports Israeli forces have crossed the yellow line in Lebanon, the ceasefire boundary that until now marked the outer limit of Israeli ground presence since 2006. With diplomacy stalling, US strikes on Iran underway, and Washington firmly behind Netanyahu, Israel appears to be testing how much further the war can expand under the language of security operations. The line was supposed to contain the war. Now it is proof that containment failed because it was never about containment, homeboy. You know that. I just want people to stop pretending like they're surprised. Why are you pretending like you're surprised? The thing in Lebanon is all about taking more land. Why are we pretending like the Israelis are actually worried about their safety? If they were worried about their safety, they would have taken that intelligence a year before October 7th happened seriously, but they didn't, did they? Because they're not worried about their safety. They're not worried about Iran's nuclear weapons, which don't exist. They're not really genuinely concerned about Hezbollah. We're talking about Israel, a nuclear power that is backed by a military superpower. We give them 2,000-pound bombs to drop on little kids' heads. Okay, they pretend like they're worried about their safety. The entire globe should be worried about their safety with Israel's existence in the form that it exists right now, which is a terror state, a genocidal terror state.
That has captured the biggest military in world history. They occupy not just the Palestinians, but the Americans. So they have access to our entire military and they order us around. I mean, this weekend it looked like for a second we were gonna do a peace deal. The Israelis said, who the hell do you think you are? back into the war, servants, and we went right back into the war. And the entire time, the American media has been telling us that the terrorists are the victims and that the victims are the terrorists. They have lied to us en masse in a way that is infuriating. And when all the American people find out how mainstream media worked for Israel and did propaganda to help fund the terrorists that have been terrorizing the Middle East for the last 60 years at a minimum, I think that there's going to be a great fury in this country.
Their war crimes are so brazen that even Murdoch-owned Sky News had no choice but to report on it. Just a headline, let's go to graphic 7 here. Shocking video shows moment paramedics are hit by Israelis in double tap strike. So they keep killing paramedics and medical workers because that's what Israel does. An Israeli strike captured on camera has killed 3 paramedics in Lebanon. Just 12 hours earlier, 4 other medics were killed. Since the war between Israel and Hezbollah resumed in March, 123 medics in Lebanon have been killed in Israeli attacks because they're terrorists. Okay, they kill doctors, they kill paramedics, they do double tap strikes. These are war crimes. But war crimes mean nothing when you live in an international community that aids and abets the treachery of a genocidal terrorist state like Israel.
And one more thing for me on that. So my whole life, I had liars pretending to be reporters tell me, and they convinced me. And that's part of why I'm so angry, is because I was brainwashed by Israeli Hezbollah pretending to be American news. They told us, well, no, the Palestinians, they intentionally target civilians. That's why they're such terrible, disgusting terrorists. Now, they didn't say, by the way, Hamas killed 1/3 of the people they killed were soldiers. Now, I condemn them. 2/3 is terrible for civilians. Now, Israel's civilian kill ratio is 83%. No one on cable news has ever stated that fact, even though it comes from the IDF itself, okay? But they say, no, we can't let Americans find out the Israelis are the terrorists. They have a civilian kill ratio worse than Hamas, worse than Hezbollah, worse than Al-Qaeda, okay? But shush, we must protect the terrorists. But on top of that now, we have double taps. Well, a double tap by definition is intentionally murdering civilians.
That's exactly right.
In fact, it's intentionally murdering medical workers and doctors, the best people on earth who come to great danger to their lives, save others who have been injured, almost always civilians who have been injured. And Israel murders them on purpose, and yet not a single mainstream media reporter has applied the label terrorist to Israel when they are indisputably, empirically bigger terrorists than anyone that our media has called terrorists. And now they're doing indisputable terrorism on medical workers, and yet the dogs in our American media lie to you every single day and go, no, the terrorists are the victims and the victims are the terrorists.
The Ellisons aren't snatching up media outlets for nothing, so.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.